is Sherry Hayes with MomDelights.com, and I'm doing more about the McGuffey readers. We ended up with the McGuffey's third eclectic reader. We were talking about that. We were talking about using the lesson book and how you could use that. Now, you don't have to use the lesson book. You could just tell your child that what they need to do is they need to copy the words from each lesson, and they need to pick out a paragraph to copy, and they need to have a dictation from that paragraph. And you could definitely do that. You don't have to buy that. Or you could, download the free ones and print them out and put them in a 3-ring binder and work from that. Everything is fine. What I want to do is I want to make this easy for you and cheap for you, and still, I tell you what, vocabulary and the stories and everything. Now, but as I talked about before, this book right here has whole passages of scripture in it. Let me see if I can find one, because you need to believe me. Let's see if I can find one. Oh, I don't see any right here. Oh, good night. Oh, maybe this is not scripture, but it does talk about the Lord taking care of you. Let me try to find that. Let's see, 79, I think, is the lesson number. Okay, little Gustavo. Oh, that's a good one. See, my children really loved these books so much that some of their favorite stories and some of their favorite poetry have come from these books, which is great. It's wonderful. Let me see if I can find this. This is really good. There's a lot of poetry in here. Child's hymn. Okay, here's a child's hymn to prove to you that this is not a secular book. God, make my life a little light, within the world to glow, a little flame that burneth bright, wherever I may go. God, make my life a little flower that giveth joy to all, content to bloom in native bower, although its place be small. And it goes on. Isn't that precious? It's in a reader in the past. So, and also I want you to notice that the poetry sometimes doesn't have anything but poetry. There aren't any words. So you can just make it, maybe memorize a stanza, or you can pull out some words that you think are important, have them pull out some words. You don't have to have any words, whatever works. Just have them do the next lesson and have them do some copy work, maybe some dictation. Have them narrate to you orally what they think the poem is about, because sometimes poems are a little harder to decipher, especially when you're younger. So this is good practice, okay? And still they can do it on their own with just a little bit of oversight by you. It's good for you to look in every once in a while and just see how they're doing. Okay, the pictures are beautiful, by the way, which I think they captivate children. So that's the third reader. One thing I want to talk to you about, which sometimes confuses people when they first start the McGuffies, is there's all this Frontmatter that, it has all these diacritical marks, and it talks about intonation and how to speak. Well, you understand that during the time when these books were published, especially something like this one, that country people kind of spoke colloquially, and everybody had a different emphasis on different things. And so they were trying to sort of homogenize the English language in America. And so they kind of emphasized, and also back then they didn't have a lot of movies or television, and people were orators, and they would take turns reading aloud poetry and reading stories to each other. So it was important that people read with good enunciation, and when, they relied on the spoken word a lot more than the written word in some senses. So that's why that's all there, but you can just skip it if you want to. If you want to go over it, it's up to you, but I just skip it. Now when we get into the fourth eclectic reader, then we're getting into even smaller print and portions of books and all kinds of things. These stories are so very captivating, but it pretty much it pretty much has the same pattern as the third eclectic reader. And they have the words with the definitions, which makes it really good for when they're writing sentences. They kind of get a glimpse into how a dictionary works. They have the diacritical marks and the syllabic emphasis mark, you'll see. So you want to help them work through that. Now, you can use a separate spelling curriculum with this. That's just fine if you want to do that. If you have a child that's really language oriented, you don't need a second spelling thing. They really pretty much get it on their own because of all the emphasis and doing it over and over again. This language in here is so rich. The vocabulary is so rich. You don't need to have anything to prepare them for SATs or anything. I will explain that as we go along. So now the fifth eclectic reader follows the same patterns. There's actually more front stuff, I think. And you're going to see that the complexity and everything increases. And actually, when I tested these books, they end up being like, by the time you're through the sixth reader, you're on a collegiate level. Like, in other words, a graduate level of college these days. And I will show you there the passages in. Now I have a nicer one of these, but for some reason I can't find it right now. This is the sixth eclectic reader. This was added originally. McGuffey didn't have a fifth or a sixth, but this right here, if your child can read these things, then you know they're ready for college reading and writing. The poetry in here, my daughter who loves language, who loves to write, this is where her favorite stuff came from, is the fifth and the sixth reader. So many amazing things in here. The vocabulary is so beyond. But in the sixth reader, they don't pull out vocabulary words. I have made my children do that on their own and make sentences themselves. But this is when they're really delving deeply. So what I have for the eclectic fourth and fifth reader, actually the higher third one even, is I've created the lesson book. I have a daughter who's going to start the fourth eclectic reader, and she's going to use this book. And I have others that have filled these out. Let's see if I have an example. I don't have an example right now. But so what I'm having her do then is she's going to, the word lists aren't that extensive. So she can like write the word here. You can have them like write a description get a description of the word from a dictionary and write it in, or write the one that's in the book, whatever. But sometimes that's just tedious, seat work. And then here's a list of extensive, you can make a list of extensive, and here is an extensive list for more sentences than before, because now they should be building sentences. Here's a place for some copy work. A few lesson doodles still, just for fun. But now we have dictation and written narration with a possibility of another place to draw a narration. So this gives them the opportunity, and the narration doesn't have to be that long. It's only half a page. But now they should be able to compose. Now they should be comfortable enough to compose. And trust me, if you're in now we're talking about the fourth eclectic reader, a child at this point should start feeling a little more comfortable composing at least a paragraph or two. And you can see the complexity here. They should be starting to feel pretty comfortable. And you can use this also with the fifth eclectic reader, and because it has a place for the words, so that's good. But when you get over to the sixth eclectic reader, then you'll be wanting to use probably this book, which doesn't have a place for words, and it's sentences and copy work and a narration. And of course, the place for the narration is longer. So there's, more composition. And this is more your high school level. And you can also use this with your sixth and just have them compose sentences and do some copy work and that type of thing. And by that point, they're really on their own, and you really don't have to do anything, but every once in a while check on it. Make sure they're finishing it, maybe check a little bit of their work, say, why did you write this sentences, this isn't correct. But also, by this point, we're going through Harvey's grammar. We're doing some grammar lessons, so that's helping with our composition. And by this time, dearies, they are ready to fly. So you don't have to do any more. And The kids really go all the way through this unless they really like it. By then we're reading all kinds of everything everywhere, and they're going crazy. Now, one of the good things about this is that, what happens is we've kind of dumbed down our language. Like even Newsweek is aimed at the 6th grade, 7th grade level of reading. So, I used to have a teacher that emphasized that to me over and over again. So, we don't really see every day a need to understand language, complex language, complex sentence structure, complex words in our everyday reading. However, if you really want to learn something and do research and be ready maybe to write college papers or to read something that's not written in the 20th or the 21st century, then you will love McGuffey's because it will prepare you for that. If you can read a McGuffey's reader at the 6th grade, the 6th reader level, then you'll be able to read anything. It will prepare you for anything you need to read. So I really recommend these. They're an excellent, and they don't cost hardly anything. Think about it. To put your kids all the way through from pre-reading through up to college level, you might spend like $100, $200 total. And if you get them used, it's really, and then then these are reusable for your kids, right? So you can put multiple kids. One thing I want to explain is that if you really want to make them usable for multiple children, you want to protect them. This was a paper bound that I found somewhere. I think I maybe paid 50 cents for it. And I covered it in plastic contact paper. If you can see, that's how I protected that. But these right here, what I've done is, these come off. What I've done is I've taken a plastic sheet protector and I cut the top and it's open at one side, right? So I cut the other sides, except I left it to where I left the fold part. So it opened to a 2-page spread. Instead of being 1 page big, I opened it so it was 2-page spread, and then I folded it so that it fit the book, and I taped it. So that way these were protected. That way they'll go through a lot more kids. And sometimes, like right along here, you'll see a little bit of breakage sometimes. All you have to do, on one of my books, the one that's really, really loved, the second reader, what I did is I took some wood glue and I took a cross grain ribbon and I glued it in there, and it is held wonderfully together. But these are really pretty sturdy. The pages in these are amazing. Not so much in these reprints of these readers, but by the time they're using these, they're older and they're respecting things just a little better. So I hope that helps you kind of grasp how you can use these. It's not like Rome was built in a day. It takes a while to bring everybody up through, but by the time they get to the upper levels, you are not going to have to worry about teaching them about reading and writing. It's going to be almost like automatic. So I really highly recommend these. And also, you don't have to worry about the moral level, because they're going to teach your kids morals you can almost read these readers for a devotional. That's how full of God they are. So if you want to, you can take the 3rd and 4th level of these original McGuffeys, and you can sit and read them yourself and learn things about the Bible and learn things about all kinds of stuff that you never thought of. It'll educate you. So I hope you enjoy these with your kids. I hope they lend you many, many years of happy homeschool learning together that is less stressful but is more excellent. So that's what I've discovered anyway, and I hope my methods help you. There are others out there. There are even workbooks, I think, that you can find. So, whatever works for you, this is just one way you can do it. I hope that blesses you. Make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.